track at the wall. We are tied.
Look at this. He's slammed it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Both dropping a big leg. Over for the cover. He got it. Unbelievable.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Austin, he got it. The starter. Mike Tyson in. Austin is the champion. Stone Cold. Stone Cold. Stone Cold.
Now the 2-2. Well hit down the left field line. Way back in.
Touch the ball, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
Oh my God, no! Mankind did it! Nick Foley did it! No! Stone Cold did it! Mankind has achieved his dream and the dream of everyone else who's been told you can't do it! No! You can't do it! You can't do it!
No matter what, got money on my mind, I can never get it up. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
Welcome to WWE WAR Wrestling Above Replacement, where we honor all of the great legends, all the great superstars via their theme music and beyond here. Of course, this is a simulcast podcast, meaning it airs in audio format on any podcast application and also video on YouTube on our North South Connection video YouTube channel. So subscribe, share it, like it, love it, and do all that. Marcus, my friend, how are you?
Good, man. I'm ready to rumble. How you doing?
I am very ready to rumble. Very excited to talk about the show tonight and continue through this season, which after tonight will almost be over. And you may say seasons. What's that? Well, here on this show, we are reviewing and breaking down every WWE pay-per-view event ever in a seasonal format. That means we start with a pay-per-view following WrestleMania and end with WrestleMania the following calendar year. So for this season, we started SummerSlam 1990. We wrap up with WrestleMania 7. We do that on and on in perpetuity, it seems like. But we pick our seasons at random. And generally, we do 2 pay-per-view events per episode of the show. But this season, because of how short the season is and just how much we really wanted to put the time and focus on these, because it's such nostalgic shows with so much going on, we decided to just do 1 pay-per-view per episode for this season. So that's what we're doing here tonight. We're just covering Royal Rumble 1991. Now, on this series, what we're doing is we're looking at everything at a plus-minus system above and below replacement level. So replacement level is the most average match, average reaction, average build, the most basic baseline wrestling stuff. Anything that's better than that, we give a plus. Anything worse than that, we give a minus, and we net all that out. We then grade every match. We take my grade, we take Marcus's grade, we do a plus-minus from a baseline grade on that. Mix it all up in a bowl, and we spit out our total WAR score and then rank every pay-per-view against each other based on those scores. And we do it in a series of categories, Marcus. So what are those categories that we break down these shows in?
We start off with build, then commentary, atmosphere, notable moments and importance, our match grades, the card structure, rewatchability, and all-time matches. And for a match to be an all-timer in the plus category, it is something we both agree is 4.25 and above. And for it to be a minus, it is something we both agree is 0.75 and below.
All right, so let's dive in on January 19th, 1991 from the Miami Arena in Miami, Florida. 16,000 in attendance. Gorilla Monsoon and Rowdy Roddy Piper back in the booth. Jerry Sags of the Nasty Boys defeats Sam Houston in the dark match. I don't know where they dug Sam Houston up from.
Michael Sam Houston.
He is back, and he loses in 5 minutes to Jerry Sags, who's not in the Rumble, but his partner is. We'll talk about that.
That stage hand. Michael Sam Houston.
Oh, God. All right, then we're going to head into the show itself. We start with a pretty iconic WWF pay-per-view opener as the Rockers take on the new Orient Express of Kato and Tanaka. That goes 19 minutes. It's a great match. It holds up really, really well. The finish is fantastic. It's again a classic finish, and it's a really, really good opener. For a long time, it was arguably the best opener in WWF pay-per-view history. I would say until 1994, probably, and then for a long time it was probably until the more modern work rate era. I'd say it was probably a top fiver for quite a while. So I had it at 4 stars. The Rockers pick up a big clean win to set up what's crazy enough. I know it's their breakup year, but it's kind of low key their best year as in-ring performers. I think, at least on big shows.
It kind of feels like they are being well positioned to be the next tag team. You figure the Hearts are going to lose the titles to Power and Glory, just based off what we've seen this season. So it seems like the Rockers are set up to take over. And then you've also got to factor in the Legion of Doom. So we still got an interesting tag team scene. It's definitely trended down, I think, from earlier seasons in the mid 80s, but good stuff here. I went for the match is absolutely incredible. It rocks pretty hard. Another match that rocks is one of my favorite matches of the evening. It is the Big Boss Man taking on the Barbarian. This has Dudes Rock written all over it. I went with a WAR of 3.75. I thought it was absolutely incredible. They keep an incredible pace considering you've got two guys. I know Boss Man slimmed down, but he's still got to be close to 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Barbarian is still all juiced up. He's looking good. Jimmy, you're looking good. Barbarian looks great here. But yeah, for two guys that are 300 pounds and, over 6'4", this is an incredible pace. It's one of the best big boy matches, I think, in company history. I think it's really good. So 3.75 for me.
Yeah, I went 3 1/4. It still really holds up. I was a little disappointed this time around. I'll be a little bit honest. I always held it more like a 3.5, probably in my mind, but still really, really good. Better than you would have ever expected going into this. It seems like a random match on paper, but it's a big part of the Boss Man Bobby Heenan family feud. He pinned Haku at Survivor Series. Now he's going to go through Barbarian, and he's trying to march his way to Mr. Perfect, right? So here he gets a clean win on Barb as he goes through the Heenan family. Barbarian brought his working boots. He's in the middle of his best stretch easily that started a Survivor Series and continuously leaves, a little bit later in 91. So, I mean, we're off to a very good start on the show in ring for sure. Up next, we have our WWF World Title match. Is Sergeant Slaughter upsets the Ultimate Warrior to win the world title and end his reign with a thud. I went 3 stars. The match itself is fine, but what's big about it is the heat, Savage, and then the finish is like such a shocking moment. I think carries it. Warrior, I thought was pretty good in the beginning of the match. He really works his ass off early on. And it looks like it's going to be a squash. I mean, he just destroys him for like a few minutes until they even things out. The Savage interference is pretty memorable. Of course, it played off. We'll talk about it later, but it played off the Big Sherry interview earlier in the night where Warrior refused to give Savage a title match. So Savage says, "Oh, Sarge promised me that title match. So guess what, Warrior? Sorry, here's the scepter inside the dome." So Sarge takes the belt in probably one of the biggest upsets of that era, I would say. You think we're marching toward Hogan Warrior 2 at Mania. Now suddenly Sergeant Slaughter is your world champion and prepped for a Mania main event out of nowhere. We talked about him last episode a little bit, just how crazy it seemed that he'd be in this position based on what we had seen to that point. But I will say, I think his character developed quite a bit leading into the show. I think adding on and really leaning in on the Saddam Hussein stuff and all that, like really helped him. I think he found his footing as a promo. He does some really good promos during this time period. So I think this 2-month stretch leading up to the Rumble, for him, they don't really have a lot of interaction, him and Warrior. I don't think there's any. But him as a character really develops a lot of his big main beats leading up to this.
Yeah, 3 for me. I really enjoy the front end of this match too with Warrior just like absolutely power surging through his offense. Looks like he's gonna steamroll Sarge. You
Yep.
get Sherry comes out and she takes a bump. It's insane. It's so well structured. They keep up the intensity, incredible pace, and then slows down with Sarge taking over. You got Savage getting his spots in. It's really well laid out and it has a lot of moving pieces and they really nail it before matches really had a whole lot of moving pieces like this. So 3 for me. I think it holds up pretty good. We level off pretty hard as we have the Mountie making his singles pay-per-view debut, taking on Coco Beware. I went with a 1. This match is mostly just all about the Mountie like displaying his offense, getting a character over. Piper's working really hard on commentary, trying to get over the Royal Mounted Police and all their control tactics. But it's especially with like kind of the deflation that's happening in the crowd from the title change. This was not the way to follow it up. It was pretty rough.
What's not rough is
Come on, everybody, get up off your feet.
another GOAT theme of the era. This match, this was unadvertised, that I remember. It was definitely just kind of out of nowhere that they threw this out. But yeah, it is Mountie's reintroduction. He had been doing his vignettes leading up to this. He had been off TV for about a year. I think their last Rougeau's match is Rumble 90. So I think they just had him on ice while they were kind of working through the character. They bring him back here. You know, he's good as a character. He's memorable. So a lot of memorable stuff. But even with that said, I think we'll see a lot of diminishing returns in ring from him. And it starts with this match. This is very, very boring. He's doing all those stupid control techniques that they really try and put over as a law enforcement officer, right? So he's doing a lot of nerve holds and choke holds and different stuff like that. It's pretty boring. It definitely kills what had been a pretty hot show to this point. And I mean, they don't really keep it short either. It was 9 minutes for what's essentially a squash. So it's a lot of Sleepy Joe in here. I went 1.5, which I guess again feels kind of high.
And
I
this
guess
is
at
cut.
least
It's cut from the VHS release, right?
yes, it is. This is actually an infamous, I guess IWC thing too, because Scott Keith in his review of the show had this listed as the Mountie versus the Brooklyn Brawler. Instead of Coco Beware, and it drove me nuts for years. And I'm like, why? I'm like, did he have a different version? Did they put that like a random match in on that? Am I remembering it wrong? I'm like, I know it was Coco. I saw her live. So when we had him on Place to Be podcast and interviewed him, I asked him about it. I was like, can you please tell me? And I guess he said, like you just said on the home video, it was cut. And I guess his roommate or someone told him, oh, yeah, it was Brooklyn Brawler, and he just put it. I don't know why I didn't look it up. He just put it. But it drove me nuts for years why he had Brooklyn Brawler listed instead of Coco Beware. So anyway, just a squash. And speaking of squashes, our next match isn't far from it. As the Rhodes family, Dusty and Dustin Rhodes, take on Ted DiBiase and Virgil. This is playing off the feud that kicked off at SummerSlam where DiBiase bought Sapphire. Cost Rhodes his match with Savage. Then they had the thing on Saturday's main event where DiBiase kicks the shit out of Dustin. He, brings Undertaker in a Survivor Series. But the build to this match from the Rhodes sideline is almost non-existent. It's all DiBiase and Virgil. So they reignite the old skits that he did when he first came in, where he's having Virgil service him in different ways, and he's rubbing his toes and whatever. And all along the way, he's like, "Remember the secret, right? You need this money or whatever." And every time Virgil would capitulate and kind of give in, and throughout all this, Roddy Piper is hyping him up on TV that he just needs to stand up and be a man. So as part of this match, the Rose piece is almost a forgotten conclusion. It's like foregone conclusion. They're forgotten immediately. He rolls up Dusty, the Rhodeses leave, and they head to WCW from this match. So they're long gone. They do nothing in the match. They're pretty much squashed. Dusty's career ends with a real thud in the WWF here. Like the whole back end is a mess. And here he's essentially like a Pedro Morales 1987 level jobber to the stars. But the post match is the big moment, right? Virgil, DiBiase wants Virgil to hand him the $1 million title. and he's demanding and berating him, remember your mother, and all this stuff. Virgil drops to a knee. Piper's about to give up hope, and then Virgil gets up with the belt, smashes DiBiase to a massive pop.
It's one of the loudest pops I've ever heard. I don't know why it's not mentioned as such, but this deserves to be in the conversation.
It's a moment that was 4 year or 3.5 years in the build. I mean, whatever, like since mid '87 when DiBiase and Virgil showed up, and he's been treating them like shit ever since. Like this was, built since that moment, and they finally do it. And Piper loses it on commentary. So it's a really iconic moment, and it saves this undercard. And I don't mean that because it sucked overall. I just mean it downward spiraled so badly after such a good start that we at least end in a good place. So we had a great opener. We had a solid Boss Man Barbarian. We had Sherry in the fellatio. We had a world title change. And then we hit the skids with that Mountie and the road stuff. But then we end on a really high note with Virgil. So I went 2 1/4 for the match. The match, again, is very forgettable. DiBiase ends it emphatically by pinning Dusty, and they vanish into the night. I think they're on WCW TV within weeks. I'm pretty sure by February they're there. So Dusty's a booker like immediately and a commentator, and then Dustin's wrestling on TV. So, and within a year, Dustin is like a high profile guy. So I don't know. It's interesting, right? He was never going to not go with Dusty, but I don't know. It's interesting what his potential ceiling could have been if he didn't leave, because they could have used a guy like him in the mid card, I think, throughout 91.
Yeah, and as if we ever do WCW WAR, I think you see pretty quickly in 91, like Dustin, like he is pushed, he's daddy's boy, he's getting the push, but like he made the most of it. He made it count. You could tell there was a reason he was getting pushed other than just his last name. He lives up to his moniker, the Natural.
Yep.
WCW. So, and then there's the rumors that like Bruce and even Vince wanted to bring him back in 93 to feud with Hogan. And Hogan hit the, doesn't work for me, brother. But they seem to definitely always like Dustin.
Yeah.
Despite him maybe not having the build that they'd like. But we're getting ready to get to an era where guys are going to be downsizing a little bit.
Right.
You definitely like to have a big dude like Dustin on your roster. And yeah, the Virgil stuff, we talked about it all time great stuff. And we're really humming as we get to the main event, which is the annual Royal Rumble match. Still does not have anything at stake other than just bragging rights of being the winner. And for back-to-back years, Hulk Hogan is going to win the Royal Rumble, last eliminating the Earthquake. I went with a 3.75. Still probably one of the better Rumbles we've covered so far. I just think we've had a bad luck.
Bad draw.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't really hit too many iconic Rumbles.
We haven't.
02, I guess, is probably the best.
I think, yeah. And like you talked about last episode with this Rumble, it's just there's not a lot of stories. There's not a lot of stuff happening in the match. Really, the only like thread throughout the match is, is Savage going to show up? There's a rumor he left. There's a missing number. Somebody doesn't come out. We find out it's Savage at the end. And
listen to these times, Marcus. Okay, this is how many guys last over 15 minutes, which to me is a long time in a Rumble. Like you don't usually get this many guys at 15 plus. And I will say, I've about had it talking about this Rumble. When Aaron George and I used to do Now Into the Rumble, this was one I felt like we were watching forever. And all these guys are in so long. And this used to be a Rumble I liked from a nostalgia point of view. Again, it's the first pay-per-view I ever watched live. So this one like resonated with me. Like it's, got some cool guys from the era that I enjoy. It's got a few moments in there, but this is how many dudes are in longer than 15 minutes, okay? Mr. Perfect, 16 minutes. Count for me, all right? Mr. Perfect, 16 minutes. Crush, 18.5 minutes. Smash, 18.5 minutes. Bret Hart, 20 minutes. Hulk Hogan, 21 minutes. Earthquake, 24, almost 25 minutes. Texas Tornado, 24.5 minutes. Shane Douglas, 26 minutes. Tito Santana, 30 minutes. The British Bulldog in his pay-per-view return, 36 minutes. Hercules, 37 minutes.
Oh
Greg the Hammer Valentine, 44 minutes. And of course, iconically enough, Rick Martel at 52 minutes.
That brings us to lucky number 13. That's almost half the field.
13 guys in this match go longer than 15 minutes. And some of them had no right to do so. Smash and Crush, no need to be in that long.
Poor
Hercules, no need to be in that long.
So
Shane
bloated.
Douglas, no need to be in that long. Tito Santana, no need to be in that long. Like, it's ridiculous. And they don't do anything. They don't do anything. Like, all right, Crush and Smash, no eliminations. Brett, no eliminations. But he's the pace setter. Tornado, no eliminations. Shane Douglas, no eliminations. Tito, no eliminations. Valentine and Hercules, one each. Valentine eliminates one guy in 44 minutes. Hercules eliminates one guy in 37 minutes. Like, it's absurd. It's such a weirdly booked Rumble. There's no super memorable moments either that really stick out, right? Like, I would say the closest are LOD eliminating the Undertaker probably after Undertaker ran through a few guys. Luke being eliminated in 4 seconds by Earthquake, and then I guess the finish. And Martel. Obviously, Martel. He's the guy. He's the MVP of the Rumble easily. But I would say, besides that, like, what else is there? There's no other big spots, or like you said, there's not a lot of heavy feuds. Savage, no shows. I don't know. I went 375 as well, which for my Rumble grades, that puts it probably about average. Anything below 4 to me is like a average to sub-average Rumble. I started a 4 on all Rumbles, so disappointing for sure, and just not one like. It's the Rumble, so you'll watch any Rumble at any time, but it's one of the more boring ones, really. What saves it is it's colorful and there's a lot of good characters, but a lot of those characters are just in it for so long and eat up so much boring time.
Yeah, and it's one of those Rumbles. I like this Rumble, but like one of my favorite meals is beef stew, and it just feels like the salt's missing. Like
Right.
there's no
Yeah.
flavor to this at all.
Yeah. It's like the time my grandmother, in her advanced age, where her cooking skills deteriorated, made lentil soup with no salt, and it was the most bland tasting fucking thing of all time. So yeah, like this stuff too. Like, look, you want to doze off tonight, you want to put it on and fall asleep listening to Gorilla Monsoon. It's fine. But you want to hear Roddy Piper make racist comments about Saba Simba? Go for it.
Hey, that's Tony Atlas.
All right, let's get to our categories. So that's a 2.75 overall for match grades, total match grades. So pretty good, but average. I would say average in ring quality. The Brooklyn Brawler Mountie match, and the Dusty Rose match really kind of, and the Rumble kind of drag it down a bit. Oh, the Rumble did okay, but the other two drag it down. All right, let's get to our categories. For build, we gave a point for the legendary poster and graphic. It's iconic. They do it again in '92. It's got the art, drawn versions of all the wrestlers walking through the alley. It's awesome. A point for Savage chasing the title. He's coming at Warrior and Slaughter. He's made that clear. A point for Boss Man continuing to march through the Heenan family. A point for Mountie debuting this vignettes leading up to the show. A point for DiBiase and Virgil's tensions building as DiBiase ramps up his abuse. A point for the Valentine Jimmy Hart split coming. They've been having issues on TV. They actually they kind of tease it here, and then they really officially split at MSG right after this. So that's really been building on TV a little bit. Greg Valentine finally going to have a face turn for the first time on WWF television. A point for Roberts and Martel and their blind man feud raging all winter. A point for Mr. Perfect, back as IC champion, defeated the Texas Tornado in December on TV to win the IC belt back. And then a point for Hogan and Quake continuing to feud leading up to this. So they'll fight on the main event. Again, they've been fighting in the house shows up to Mania. So that feud takes us to the end of this show where it kind of blows off officially on TV. But.
All right. For our minuses, we've got the aimless tag opener, no stakes or feud involved. Could have been a little bit spicier with something on the line or some kind of blow off to a short TV feud. You got Slaughter randomly named the #1 contender. Doesn't have any interactions with Warrior. After a hot start, you get the Rhodes family limping into this blow off with DiBiase. Not even the focus of the match. Dusty is really washed. Not a lot of stories or feuds set up for the Rumble match either.
Nope. All right, so that's a total WAR score of 4 for the build. So solidly built show for one that didn't have a ton of feuds permeating throughout the Rumble. Commentary, a point for Gorilla's fantastic calling of the world title match. A point for Gorilla and Piper strong in their disgust of Slaughter winning the title as well. A point for Piper being his key role in Virgil standing up to DiBiase. A point for the really nice job with
ongoing hyping the long durations of guys all match to show how impressive it is. Gorilla and Piper calling Brother Love a fat piece of garbage and the king of cellulite. And then the classic Gorilla Piper exchange, which did that actually happen here? Or was that on TV, the Tony Atlas? I thought it was on TV.
I thought they did it. I thought they did it here.
I'll have to look
I
back.
thought he
We'll give it the
mentioned it
point
here
anyway
real
because it's
quick.
iconic in the build. But
Okay.
Gorilla saying it's Saba Simmer and Piper saying that's Tony Atlas. Because I thought it was with Vince. I think it was his debut on TV. And it's with
Okay.
Vince, I think, not Gorilla. We're going to leave the plus, though, because it's ridiculous enough to be worth it. And it's only Saba Simmer's only pay-per-view appearance. So, all right, what do you have for the minuses for commentary?
All right, we got Piper's ongoing obsession with the Iraq War.
Nobody loves this war more than Piper. He is all in on the Iraq War. He talks about it nonstop for 3 straight pay-per-views. And I'm sure there's a 4th in there somewhere coming. But for 3 straight pay-per-views, he is obsessed with the Iraq War.
Yeah, I'm sure it's still going on at SummerSlam 91. Piper says the Orient Express were gnawing on raw fish before their match. That's not so good. Piper with the Gomer stuff all night. Gorilla keeps calling every mounted control hold as if it's his finisher because we have no idea which one is his finisher. Piper says Mountie is goose stepping. Piper's just got like weird rhymes and riddles all night and all throughout the Rumble match. Gorilla and Piper going insane with the jingoism when Hogan celebrates after the Royal Rumble.
All right, so that is -1 with that. And yeah, there's a lot of up and down through here. I love Gorilla just not knowing Mountie's finisher, just assuming they were going 9 minutes. I think he's just assuming everyone. And the Piper's rhymes and riddles throughout the Rumble is very odd. He's like, I'm here to beat you with a shoe. And like, I don't know, he says it for when Roma comes out. Like he just keeps doing weird like poems for every wrestler. It's very odd.
Romeo, where art thou, Romeo?
Yeah, it's like there's some really weird stuff throughout from him. I think he's just whatever, got to kill an hour that he hasn't had to do before, so he just goes kind of crazy. So -1 for commentary. Atmosphere though is where the show really starts to make hay. It's a great crowd. I think it's an underrated crowd. 1991 is a calendar year, has some awesome pay-per-view crowds that doesn't get talked about probably enough. Like this one, WrestleMania is great. SummerSlam and MSG is great. Survivor Series is pretty good too. So like it's a kind of an underrated crowd year. Here's the pluses: the classic purple and yellow Rumble logo and branding for a point for atmosphere. Big pop for the Rockers. A point for Warriors paint and jackets. Really cool look. He's got the USA paint. He's got the red, white, and blue jacket with the Warrior symbol. That looks really cool. The crowd reaction during Sherry's seduction of Warrior is perfect. They're just like losing it throughout all of it. And then the kids, like as well in the audience, like, I want to talk about this. We'll get to it
Yes.
at some point. I think there's a point where we focus on it, but it deserves its own section. A point for the nuclear pop for the Big Boss Man. A point for the crowd being red hot for the Warrior, destroying Savage and tearing the flag. A point for the massive pop when Virgil turns on DiBiase. The crowd losing their shit when Jake beats the shit out of Martel in the Rumble. A point for the crowd being into all the big face stars all throughout the Rumble match. A point for the mega pop in the really fun moment where the kid yells, "It's Hulk Hogan!" as he pops out of the curtain right before he shows up. And then a point for when Bulldog eliminates Martel to end his night is like really big when he knocks him off the top rope. And then a point for Hogan winning. So the crowd was there all night, super into this show.
Yeah, for the minuses, we've only got 2. That is the crowd a little bit dead following Slaughter's title win, and then crowd a little dead for Coco's act. He's definitely in Jobber to the Stars territory. But that gives us a war of 10 for atmosphere.
All right, very strong. Like I said, I mean, just a great crowd and great moments and great presentation overall. So, all right. Notable moments. Here we go. A lot going on here too. The pay-per-view debuts. Usually we give a max of 3 for all these. We have the New Orient Express. We have Shane Douglas, Tony Atlas, the Mountie, Dustin Rhodes, Brian Knobbs. So max of 3 there. I guess we'll talk about it now. It's a very notable moment. So,
oh boy.
Out comes sensational Queen Sherry to talk to it's Sean Mooney or Gene. I forget. I think it's Gene, right?
It's
Yeah,
Gene,
so-
yeah. Mooney's in the back with Savage.
So she's begging Warrior to come out so she can ask him a question. Savage is watching backstage with Sean Mooney on the monitor.
Sherry starts to very outwardly, I would say the most outwardly seduction on WWF television pre-Attitude Era, is fondling his hair, talking about how she admires him, slides his coat off his shoulders, rubs his chest, is really laying it on very heavy about what she'll do for him if he'll give Savage a title match.
Drops
To
to her
the point where
knees.
she then drops to her knees and pretty much says, "I will blow you if you give Savage this title shot."
Hands on the thighs.
Yeah, I mean it's overt. Like, and there's kids in the crowd watching very directly at this moment. I mean, me as a kid, I'm sitting on the couch. I'm 10 watching this, right? So it's pretty crazy. It's nuts that this. I'm back. It's nuts that this is out there. Just for anyone to see, like all these children. So she's, playing it up, and then Warrior, the incel that he is, leans down in Sherry's face and no. Savage loses his shit backstage.
He said no. He said no.
He comes storming out to Sherry. Warrior's
I'm gonna
long
get
gone.
him.
I mean, it's an all-time moment. I mean, it's worth, it's worth the point for sure. It's insane. I think it's fucking insane. It's still mind-blowing to me that they did this on a 1991 pay-per-view.
It's still, I think, like the most sexual thing that they've done. I don't think it's been touched as far as like the intent and like the just like it's pretty raw. It is pretty raw. Like it's not raunchy, and I think that's like why this kind of like is an eternal segment because it's not raunchy, but it is like it's very heavy. I think that's the best word to describe it. It's very heavy. I love the reaction from the crowd. Like you see the kids are like
what is going
puzzled.
on?
You see the men in the background. Like there's just this guttural like roar.
I don't think I picked up as a kid of what it was like the blowjob part. I think I just saw she was begging him probably. So I think a lot of kids probably were along that line,
Even to like complete it, like Sherry's not like still like not completely done up for the night. Warrior comes out, he's in the jacket, like that's like another key to this is like it kind of helps it feel impromptu. Yeah, and then of course Savage, the sprint he makes from the locker room, enters in from the back of the crowd, it runs up to the set and he shoots up there before anybody realizes like who it is or where he came from.
Yep.
And he just misses Warrior. It's an insane segment. It's so well done. I think it definitely helps going into WrestleMania 7, which we'll talk about with the build. It's been on fire so far.
Yeah, I mean it's just an iconic scene, so it's just nuts. All right, so a point for that, a point for Savage costing Warrior the world title, a point for Slaughter winning the world title, a point for this being the first world title match ever to Royal Rumble, so that's a big moment. We went the max 3 on Virgil turning on DiBiase. It's an all-timer.
Yeah, it really is.
Worth the payoff. The payoff to the build is great. A point for Martel setting the all-time record with a classic performance. He eliminates Jake to set up Mania. We give it 3 for that. I mean, that's 50 minutes. It's the record at this point. And it holds up. He's awesome in the match. Like, he's fantastic. It's not like he just lays on the ground like some guys do later. He's active the whole time. So he's tremendous. A point for Undertaker making his Rumble match debut. Throws out some big names. A point for the British Bulldog making his return. A point for Hulk Hogan winning the Royal Rumble. And then a point for Luke setting the record for the shortest Rumble appearance. That was a clip they'd show a million times. He marches in, Earthquake grabs him, throws him right out, and he marches away. So a lot of moments. It's a super memorable show for sure.
Whacked his way in, whacked his way out. For the minuses, we've got Warriors title reign ending with a thud after such a soft run with the title. We've got Dusty's WWF run ending pretty pathetically, ends on a whimper. And he's definitely an afterthought to the DiBiase and Virgil stuff. Warlord, unfortunately, my guy is pathetic as a Royal Rumble entrant. He's always in late and he's always out quick.
Oh, God, so pathetic.
Yeah, it's another bad showing for my guy. But That does grade out to a 14. So really piling on the points in the last two categories with atmosphere and now noticeable moments and importance.
All right. Yes, I mean that's 14 is huge. That's a big number. So atmosphere and moments, right? Carrying this thing, 10 and 14, big numbers. All right, 275 for matches. We talked about that. Let's talk card structure. We start with a hot tag match. Is a great way to kick the show off. Show long through line with Savage chasing for the world title, pissing off Warrior, missing the Royal Rumble match as a result. A point for the classic Rumble pre-match promos. Everyone feels important. A point for starting the Rumble with a workhorse at a Hart showcase for the upcoming solo push. A point for closing the Rumble with Hogan and Earthquake as well. They fight on the main event in the tag match, and they fight on the. Actually, no. You know what? They had already done the Saturday's main event tag match. I think, right? I think the main event is Hogan and. Maybe it is that. I forget. Anyway, they're in there somewhere. But for the most part, this is the end of the feud. They fight on the house shows for a little bit longer, but on TV, it's pretty much done. And then that's it for the positives. So what do you have for the negatives for card structure?
For the negatives, I've got random placement for Warrior and Slaughter on the card. It's really indicative of Warrior's title reign. He really is starting to feel like just a guy. Definitely not in the same category as Hulk Hogan. Even as far back as SummerSlam. Could have used another title match on the card and structured a little bit clearer. We got the Mountie bringing down the show with his offense. Doesn't help the crowd recover from the title change shock. Too much dead weight hanging on throughout the Rumble. And accomplishes very little. Hercules, Tito, Valentine, Douglas, Crush. Perfect gets eliminated without a big spot. I felt like there was a couple of those like eliminations that were missed or not well built up to. So that grades us out to a wash. That is a 0.
Yeah, it's definitely a card that could have used one more. Like I think perfect in the match. Like you want him in there because it means a lot. But I think an IC title match maybe on the undercard here could have helped a little bit. I don't know. It's kind of a weird show setup wise. Even though it fits the structure of a Rumble card of this era. It just feels like that structure maybe is starting to get played just a little bit. They needed something to juice it for sure. All right, rewatchability. A point for the classic Vince narrated intro, of course, iconic. A point for the finish of Rockers and Orient Express, which is great. It's one of those ones you got to watch it over and over just to understand it. Like it is the way they do it. Like it's so crazy looking. It's hard to think it through. A point for Warrior in one of my favorite lines in one of his promos, talking about Slaughter. Says the only ones that would follow you are those that are demented. The phrasing is so weird. It's just demented. It's such an odd choice for words for who would follow Slaughter. A point for Warrior nearly killing Sherry with that massive press slam. Just hucks her out towards Savage. She flies over him. And it looked great because she has that big black flowing dress on, and he just sends her flying. A point for Luke's elimination, which is always rewatchable. It's really funny. And then a point for Virgil turning on DiBiase. That's such a good moment.
For our minuses, we are going to give one ding to Sherry sexually propositioning Ultimate Warrior. It's awkward. It's long. It feels like something off a MILF and
it was like Stifler's mom, or something out of American Pie for sure.
Yeah,
it was Cinemax level. I mean, I meant to say it earlier. It was like it's literally like a Cinemax scene. Is the way they play it. It's simulated. It's like ham acting. It's very odd. Very
odd. Slaughter acting like he won when the ref breaks the camel clutch. Does your favorite spot, jumping up and down. It's such a contrived spot. He always thinks he won where he clearly didn't. And then we got awkward fan videos talking about the troops sending their well wishes and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that was odd. It was, I don't know. Like you're asking some 17-year-old or 15-year-old kid or whatever about the troops coming home and what the show means.
You win the war and come back home.
Yeah, bring all our boys back home. Like it was so 1991. Like it was just whatever. Something you'd never get today, obviously. All right, so that's a +2 for rewatchability. No all-time matches either way. And that brings us to a very strong war score, Marcus, of 31.75. Did this surprise you?
I'm gonna say no. It kind of delivered where I thought, just because of like the Sherry and Savage and Warrior through line throughout the whole night, the great angles. Um, it's got the classic Royal Rumble nostalgia with the interviews and the Vince intro. Again, it's another very like Hasbro feeling show. With all like the ring attires and guys are looking good and everybody's tan and ripped. It just it it feels like good, and the Rumble itself, like, again, it's a little flavorless, but it's not bad. I would say.
See, that's
Um,
why I didn't think it was going to finish well. Maybe this now into the Rumble was so burned in my brain from watching it so many times. Like, I was thinking, like, all right, well, nothing happens in the Rumble. Yeah, it's got the world title change, but then yeah, stuff just starts adding up, and I kind of overlooked the crowd piece of it too. Um, I think it's a show that the some of the parts, right, the whole is greater than the parts, whatever that I can never get that one right. Whatever that saying is. I think it's one that absolutely benefits from our system. Like I would say
mm,
that's absolutely the case. I think um, it's not a great in-ring show outside of the opener, and Bossman Barbarians mileage may vary. I think it's a lower tier Rumble match. Um, but I think it is sneakily loaded with moments and a great crowd, and it's well built. So I think that in our format helps it quite a bit. I think, if you were just if I went back to like when Aaron and I and No Holds Barred ranked every Rumble, I would assume it's very low, like as a show. Um, but there's a lot of stuff just that ticks our boxes. So that puts it at 12th all time for us.
all right.
Just a quarter point behind Rumble 16. A little above Fastlane 2019. About 2 points behind WrestleMania 21, and that puts it right outside the top 10. WrestleMania 21 is our 10th show. So yeah, I mean, this season is delivering so far, man. Like, SummerSlam 90 is our second best show, and Rumble 91 is our 12th best show. And I have a feeling WrestleMania will finish high as well. I mean, it's a great
Yeah, we'll
mania.
see. Yep.
So this low key has a chance to probably be our best season when you look at like composite overall grades and ranks. I mean, I don't think any other season has 3 shows in the top 12, which just likely will. I mean, we haven't looked at Mania yet, but I'm guessing it's going to be in there. So
Yeah, the question isn't if it's going to be high; it's going to be how high.
right,
I
yeah.
think it's going to grade out really well. So
Like
it definitely
the
has its
01,
flaws,
02
but
season has 3. SummerSlam 01, Rumble 02, and WrestleMania 18. So I guess we'll have a couple. But that actually has 3 inside the top 7. So that's probably our best season. But it also has a lot on the back end. This one's going to have the hit rate of 3 out of 4, being very strong. So, all right. You want to run through the rest of our top 10? I already said number 10 is WrestleMania 21 at 33.5.
there we go. SummerSlam 2015 comes in at number 9 with 35.25.
Number 8, Royal Rumble 05, 36.5.
And number 7 is WrestleMania 18 with a 36.75.
Number 6, Evolution 2018 with 38.
Into our top 5, SummerSlam 1999 with a 38.25.
Number 4, SummerSlam 1992, 38.25. Tied. Gets the tiebreaker with the best match.
Number 3, SummerSlam 2001 with a 39.
Number 2, SummerSlam 1990 with a 42.
And our number 1 overall show, as of date, Royal Rumble 2002 with a WAR of 44. So that's the mark. Do you think WrestleMania 7 has a chance?
I do think it has a chance. I think there's so many moments, some great matches, an awesome crowd, great atmosphere. It's well built. I think one thing that could drag it, I'm guessing, is some of the bloated card. It's a lot of meaningless matches, but we'll see. Just to give you a feeling for the spread, our number 1 show is 44 points. Our last show is Greatest Royal Rumble 2018 at negative 17.25. So the spread overall is about 60-ish in between our best and worst shows right now. So I hope you enjoyed this. Next episode, we'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll finish this season already with WrestleMania 7. We'll do our season-ending awards that we always do. And then a month from today, we'll already be on our next season, which is crazy. We're plowing ahead here on WWE WAR. Check out everything we have to offer North-South Connection. Follow us here on YouTube. Subscribe. Leave a comment. Leave a like. Leave a share. Can't leave a share, but share it. Follow us on all podcast applications as well. Make sure you capture everything we have to offer. Follow us on social media. You'll never miss a thing. Live your life above replacement level, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.